Please don't kick me. I'm already hurt. Please don't kick me. I'm already hurt. The morning sun filtered through the windows of Rosie's diner, casting golden patterns across the worn linoleum floor. Margaret wiped down table 7 for what felt like the 100th time that week. Her hands, weathered from years of hard work, moved with practiced efficiency. At 62, Margaret had seen plenty in her lifetime. She'd raised 3 children on her own, working double shifts when necessary. Life had taught her that dignity came from showing up day after day, even when your feet ached and your heart felt heavy. This particular Tuesday started like any other. The breakfast rush had ended, leaving behind the familiar scent of coffee and bacon. Margaret tied her apron a little tighter and smiled at the regular customers who knew her by name. Then Thomas walked in. He wore an expensive suit that seemed out of place in the modest diner. Something about the way he carried himself made Margaret pause. He didn't look at his phone like most younger customers did. Instead, he observed everything with quiet attention. "Coffee, please," he said simply, settling into a corner booth. Margaret brought him a steaming cup, her movements careful despite the tremor that had recently developed in her left hand. She'd been trying to hide it, worried that any sign of weakness might cost her this job she desperately needed. As she set down the cup, her hand betrayed her. The coffee sloshed onto the saucer, a few drops landing on the clean table. "I'm so sorry," Margaret said quickly, reaching for her cloth. "It's perfectly fine," Thomas replied gently. "These things happen." But Margaret's manager, Frank, had seen it from across the room. He strode over, his face tight with frustration. "Margaret, we need to talk. In the back. Now." Margaret's heart sank. She knew what was coming. She'd seen Frank fire 3 people this month already. The diner was struggling, and he'd been looking for reasons to cut staff. "Please," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't kick me when I'm already hurt. I know I'm slowing down, but I can still do this job. I need this job." There was no drama in her words, just simple truth. She thought of her small apartment, paid for with each paycheck. She thought of her granddaughter's medication that she helped buy. She thought of the independence she'd fought so hard to maintain. Thomas had heard everything. He stood up slowly and walked over. "Excuse me," he said to Frank. "I couldn't help but overhear. I think you should know something." Frank turned, irritated. "Sir, this is a private matter." "Not entirely," Thomas continued, his voice calm but firm. "You see, I'm Thomas Bennett. I own this diner. I own 37 diners just like it across 3 states. The color drained from Frank's face. Margaret stood very still, unsure what to think. Thomas turned to her with kind eyes. "I travel to different locations undercover to see how they really run, to see how people treat each other when they think no one important is watching." He paused, letting his words settle. "Frank, I've been coming here all week. I've watched Margaret greet every customer with genuine warmth. I've seen her slip extra toast to the elderly gentleman who comes in on Thursdays. I've watched her clean tables other staff members walked past. I've noticed how the regular customers light up when she remembers their usual orders." Margaret felt tears gathering but refused to let them fall. "What I haven't seen," Thomas continued, "is compassion from management. Margaret, how long have you worked here?" 11 years, she said softly. 11 years of loyalty, Thomas repeated. "And you were about to fire her over a tremor she can't control?" Frank stammered, trying to find words. Thomas held up his hand. "Frank, I'm making some changes. Effective immediately, you're being transferred to a position where you can learn about people management. Margaret, I'd like to offer you a different role. We need someone to train new staff, someone who understands what real service means. Better hours, better pay, and a chair when you need it." Margaret couldn't hold back her tears anymore. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept, Thomas smiled. We need people who bring heart to their work. That's worth more than speed or perfect hands. Later, as Margaret sat in the break room with a cup of tea, Thomas joined her. May I ask you something? She said. Why do you do this? The undercover visits? Thomas was quiet for a moment. My mother was a waitress. She worked until she was 70. Some managers treated her kindly. Others didn't. I built this company on her sacrifices. I never wanted to forget what real work looks like or what dignity costs. Margaret nodded, understanding in her eyes. We all get older, Thomas continued. We all slow down eventually. The measure of a person and a company is how we treat people when they're vulnerable. That's when kindness matters most. Word spread quickly through the diner. By evening, Margaret's co-workers hugged her, celebrating her new position. The regular customers clapped when they heard the news. That night, as Margaret rode the bus home, she looked out at the city lights and thought about the strange turns life takes. She'd walked into work that morning expecting to lose everything. She was leaving with more than she dared to hope for. Sometimes she realized asking for compassion takes more courage than silent suffering. Sometimes being honest about our struggles opens doors we didn't know existed. And sometimes kindness arrives when we need it most, wearing an expensive suit and carrying the wisdom that everyone, absolutely everyone, deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, no matter their age, no matter their struggles. Margaret smiled to herself. Tomorrow would be a new chapter, and she was ready. I've created a gentle, heartfelt story that speaks to themes of dignity, respect, and second chances, topics that resonate deeply with mature listeners. The pacing is deliberately slow with natural pauses built into the narrative structure, making it ideal for text-to-speech delivery. The story avoids dramatic tension in favor of emotional authenticity, featuring characters who speak and act with the quiet wisdom that comes from lived experience. The nostalgic elements, the classic diner setting, the value of loyalty, and the importance of human connection create a warm, familiar atmosphere. The character names, Margaret, Thomas, and Frank, are straightforward American names, and the story length falls within your requested 5,000, 6,000 character range, allowing listeners time to absorb the emotional moments without feeling rushed.